Impact, our webinar, and where we'll be focusing on how to build a winning strategy for B2B SaaS and digital products. We'll be covering, well, basically, it's the framework that we've created is based on the experience that Hans and I have had over the past, 10 years of different projects in digital and SaaS builds and go-to-market, etc. So my name is Lawrence. I'm the product strategy and revenue lead here at Stoked, and I'm joined here by Hans. Hans, if you'd like to give an introduction.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Hans. I'm the founder here at Stoked, and I'm running the delivery team and also actively participating in execution of the projects and the product strategy work that we'll be looking into today. So yeah, thank you for joining, all of you. Thanks.
Okay, so I think a fair size of the audience, I think know us, but there's quite a few newcomers as well. So just to start off, so we're Stoked. We're a digital product agency, and essentially we help companies design, build, and grow digital solutions that deliver business impact. And the last part of that delivering business impact, is what we're going to be focusing on today, because it's really important when it comes to forming an effective strategy. A little more about us. So we have a 5-star client rating. We're awarded the top UX provider in Denmark, and we also do full service. So we work on the early product strategy. We do the build and then launching products as well. So we're there for the full life cycle. And what we tried to do with the framework that we're going to be introducing today, and just basically how you build something that is effective, is based on all the experience that we've had through multiple projects. The mission statement for today, in terms of inspiration to impact, that's the sort of the high level. But what we're actually going to be focusing on is this problem. So a coherent strategy it's a huge competitive advantage when you're actually launching. But we've seen that many startups, a lot of mature SaaS companies, maybe been in business 15, 20 years, and they're looking to reimagine the strategy. And then larger corporate companies who aren't traditional technology companies, but they're going through, launching digital ventures, digital transformation projects, things like that. And this is where the struggle comes, is like, how do you actually make something that's effective that when you start execution? And why is this? So in terms of without that coherent strategy holding, the product team and the sales team, etc., divisions emerge between them. Often products can be developed in silos without collaborative input across the business. So we say thrown to sales and marketing once it's built, without the early crucial contributions on customer insights, on value propositions, things like that. So the result of that often is, when it goes wrong, is that can be significant wasted investment in marketing spend when you switch on ads and nothing happens. And then also significant wasted investment in software developer hours, which are some of the most expensive hours that you're going to be doing, and they can disappear quite quick as well. So without that foundation, things can go awry. I think definition is important here, because you say strategy, it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So we're not talking about feature plans here, or architecture, or a roadmap, or I think a lot of people think of the consulting industry, whiteboard sessions and lots of big talk and ideas, but nothing really tangible that you can hold on to. So what we mean when we talk about that is creating a clear vision to a user-friendly product that actually meets a real need, and that can be effectively communicated to the market, and that you can iteratively improve through feedback. That's a really key point, and we're going to keep coming back to that again throughout today's presentation. Iteration is really important, because strategy and execution, they have to be interlocked. It's not about front-loading all of the work. It's about laying the foundation, so that as you progress from the early V1 to V1000, as you continue to execute, that everything is aligned on customer value, and that alignment is key. So the result of all of this is that when you come up with a value proposition, it's not just an empty promise in marketing copy. It's driven product development, because with that alignment formed, the differentiation of a product isn't just an afterthought. It's actually been built into the product. The vision is clear, so the roadmap is easy to navigate, and then success can be defined and, more importantly, measured. We will come to that in the North Star metric, so everyone is on the same page. In this diagram, I think we tried to boil this down. I mean, with digital products, a lot of SaaS products, it can get overcomplicated, but you essentially build something and then you sell it. So product development and commercial execution is there, and then undergirding that is the product strategy, and all should work together to make sure that the insights captured are fed back in, and everything works together. So that's the introduction. That's sort of laying the groundwork there. The presentation, the webinar is going to go. We're going to identify 12 key components of what we put in. We've also done an ebook which goes through in specific detail, which is free to everyone. You can have that after. But we want to touch upon at high level exactly what goes into a strategy. And the first section is positioning. Okay, so if the strategy is the roadmap to the actual product that, you know, meeting the need and can be effectively communicated, the vision is the North Star for the entire strategy. Is why we always start there. And when we always ask is, where will our product be in 5 years if resources were unlimited? So this is, you know, putting it on future focus, but more importantly, it provides a strategic framework for decision making. So Hans, vision, that strategic framework for decision making.
Yeah, but one thing to add, Lawrence, just now we go through the 12 steps. I think it's important to remember here that these are not sequential steps. It's not you do the vision and then you go to the next step and the next step. These are done in it's a little bit like preparing for a party. It's not like you finish one part first and then you finish. It's like everything is done when everything is done.
Yes.
Building a little bit up on all of these aspects and everything interconnected.
Yeah, everything is hyperlinked. Yeah.
Yes, for vision, this is an aspect I believe a lot of the startups out there are very good at getting clarity. This why they start. We see it sometimes lacking in the corporate world, in the B2B companies out there that add digital components to the business. Is they forget they can be very problem focused are very okay. We have this particular issue right now. We need to build something to solve that, rather than looking far enough into the future on the vision. And then vision is important. It's aspirational. It helps everyone understand the big picture.
Yeah, I think that alignment, and like you said about providing coherence along every step, it's something that you iterate and iterate. But the vision is essentially where you start, so you know where you're going. As you said, I think the early startups, I think that this seems to be something that they're good at. But in some cases, like with other companies, more mature companies, corporates, it's never been defined, or it was more of a slogan. And then in mature companies, it's become stale sometimes and it needs to be reimagined. So the risk of all of this is vanilla product development, bloated software, a steady drift from what made the product excel, and then disruption sometimes as well. So
yes, and also what we see is let's talk about a lot about that in the startup world, making a pivot, changing your strategic focus. And this is both in the startup world, but also in established companies, something that adds risk in these. If you don't have a clear picture of where you are going, that may change, or that will change along the way, and you get this unhinged execution that shifts your focus around. And this is important next month, this is important, then a customer calls, then that becomes important, and you end up getting progress in 1,000 different directions that may or may not be aligned, well, most of the cases not aligned with the overall vision, if this is lacking in the project and the product.
Yeah, and we've got that key question here: is this going to move us closer to this vision or not? And if it's not, then it can often be a good sign that you're not focusing on the right things. So vision, really important. It's a framework for strategic decisions. It's not a slogan. It's a vision for people to look at and know where we're going, but it's for that decision making. Differentiated from that is the mission. So if the vision is the why, and then we're looking at the actual mission, it's the what are we doing and how are we doing it. So this is more purpose driven. A lot of people tend to confuse these a little bit. Would you agree?
Yes, totally. They get mixed up. I've been doing that myself. These two aspects, because they're so interconnected. But the vision is the why, the direction, and the mission is more closely related to the what. What are we then actually doing?
Yeah. So we put here purpose is like what are the functions that are going to be taking place? What's the action and what's the actual value here? I think the best example is always with product, and it's a common one, but Apple. So with vision, you can see we're going to make the best products on earth and leave the world better. But the mission is more, that's the why. So, but the actual mission of how we're going to do that is the best UX, innovative hardware, software, and services. So once you have painted the vision, and then the mission is more about how are we going to do that, and then what are we going to do. So I've put this as like key takeaways here. This is the starting point. You define the why with the future aspirational state of the product, which guides your strategic decisions. The practical what and how is contained within the mission. When you're reimagining, when you've reached maturity, say, it's really important to get this clear, to make sure that the sales team or the marketing team or the product team, everyone is aligned behind this new vision, and that's why you need the collaborative input. And then essentially it's the guiding principles of the entire strategy. So this is where we start. Like we said, it's not sequential, but this is generally where it starts, right?
Yes, and again, this is not something you sit down and define first and then go to the next steps. These things are all interconnected, but we'll talk more about that
Exactly.
at the end.
Because once you go to validation, it might mean that your vision is off. So then you have to go back to the top, start again, and then so everything is interconnected. You have to shave constantly as you go through this, and then you'll know when it's rock solid at the end. The next stage we talk about is the problem definition. So can we fully articulate the pain our product solves or will solve once developed? So I think this is a really key technique within this whole strategy, is looking at the core challenges, and then we tend to use a 4-paragraph story format, so it really brings it to life. So I thought I'd give a quick example here, because we didn't want to give stuff from the actual client projects we've done. So we've created a fictional example just called Focus ASAP, and it's a fictional productivity app that helps employees filter notifications, allocate work, and be more productive. I think that's something we'd all quite like, actually. But here's an example problem definition of how this looks, and I've highlighted in purple the key points from each one. So we want to actually explain what the problem is in this. We're not offering the solution. We're just saying that a solution is needed. So the key point here is ensuring employees can perform focused, productive work is becoming the challenge of our time. Working from home, the temptation to work longer hours, reply to messages, skyrocketing burnout, and making deep focus work harder than ever before. And then the result of this is, shallow work, constant slips in attention. And then for the mental well-being of employees and productivity, we need to find a better way. And then for the fourth paragraph, it's the mission statement. So more than ever, we need a new form of productivity tool, one that empowers their team to achieve deep, meaningful work, unaffected by constant notifications, noise, and distractions. So this is actually just outlining in real clear detail who this problem is about, who it's affecting, how it's affecting them. It's a simple story format which really articulates the problem we've found. It also provides clarity for marketing and sales and product. So the products aren't going to add to this. They need to come up with an experience that doesn't add to this problem. And then marketing and sales knows the pain points to touch upon when they go to market. So there's that alignment that we talked about earlier. So, and also the final.
I think the simple, as you say here, the simplicity of it, it's easy once you work in a product in a company for long. You understand that, this. It's easy to communicate. I believe everyone here, after reading through this, as you did everyone understands, okay, what is the problem that we are dealing with here? What is the problem that this thing sets out to solve? Which we've seen in a lot of projects can be forgotten.
Yeah,
people can get focused on the the vision or the mission or the features or the shiny new things, and forgetting, okay, what is actually deep down the problem that we're trying to solve here.
Yeah, and that just provides that clarity, on the roadmap, the metrics, the messaging, things like that. So yeah, really important, the problem definition, because it just says this is what we're solving, and it lays the foundation then for the elevator pitch and the messaging that comes later. So it's a hyperlinked element that is going to need to be with user research and validation testing. It's going to have to be refined.
Exactly, and I think everyone that works within digital product development, software development, have been guilty of pursuing those shiny new features or those clever ideas, and forgetting about, okay, deep down, what is the problem that this was supposed to solve in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's such a good idea, right? It's such a good idea. Well, for what end, right? For what problem?
Yeah, for what end? That's really important. And I was in some user research sessions recently, and that came up. It was like, oh, we want to put this new thing in AI. Yeah, but like, for what's the purpose of that? What's it going to do? Oh, I don't know. I think we need it. It's one of those things that just really grounds you as well. So the next step, I would say, or maybe not step, but the component, let's say, is the North Star metric. And this is when we've done auditing and talked to people, this is an area that gives that a lot of people don't have, and that is actually one of the most valuable things in the entire strategy, because it measures the precise moment that a customer receives the value the product was designed to deliver. So number one, it's a success indicator, but number two, it measures actual customer value, which, and also as well, it provides the incentive for the team and the alignment, right? So it's really, really important. Like I said, and it measures value, and it measures the precise moment that the value is received. So here's some really simple examples, like Spotify, WhatsApp, Airbnb. Spotify's playtime, so they have all this music, but until you hit the play button, there's no value received. WhatsApp, number of messages sent. These are simple B2C cases. In B2B, it's much more difficult, because often it's highly complex, and you have to do a different. You have to measure different things, and but these are just examples just to paint the picture.
And I think it's very, if you can go back one slide, I think it's very important for these to, some companies tend to forget this. So if you're Spotify, one could easily say, well, the most important metric for us, because this is how we compete in the market, is the size of the music catalog. But in reality, it's not. People don't buy the access at Spotify for the catalog of music. They buy the entertainment. They buy the playtime.
Yeah.
Right. As you said, sometimes it can be difficult to nail this, especially in B2B, because things can become a lot more complex. But once you get it, it becomes a lot easier to understand. Okay, what is it that drives value in this, and also what is outside of the scope of what this application should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same as the problem definition and the vision and mission that came earlier. I think that one of the repeated message we're going to get here is that this is about becoming coherent and really closely targeted, and not being drawn off into things that don't add value as well. Often, I think that this leads nicely into the next point about lagging versus leading. So it should ideally be a leading indicator, not something like revenue, which is lagging, because that's too late. And the go-to when you have these initial discussions about what's the North Star, it must be revenue. But that's actually a really poor measure, because someone can pay for something every month, and it doesn't mean that they're actually using the app. Maybe they signed a year subscription, couldn't work it out, but they're paying every month, the money lands in. So customer success looks at it and goes, oh, they're paying every month, it's great. But actually that's a poor indicator, because when it comes to renewal day, they leave, and then you don't really know. You have to have something that's a leading indicator, so you get the speed to insight, the value generation, and it's somewhat easier to track. So if you make a change, you can be like, okay, the North Star metric went up or down, so we know that it was valuable to the. So for Spotify, they introduced a new feature, AI DJ, they've introduced recently. Maybe they can look across a cohort of accounts. Did the playtime go up or down? Did that feature help, and did they use the feature? So it's a quick indicator about how people are using the product as well.
Just one thing, we have a question here from Nick. He asks, what if you're solving a pain? Do you measure the time not spent, or what do you measure? Generally, especially in B2B, we are always talking, most SaaS solutions targeting B2B, or if it's internal applications, are there to improve efficiency. It's to make something most of the time that you need to spend less resources, have a smaller team to carry out the service of what it is. So the measurement of time not spent is usually, it's as Lauren said here before, it's a lacking indicator. But again, look back, Nick, at what is the value that the application should be doing? Is it in this? Maybe we have that in a sec for Focus ASAP, Lawrence. What the North Star metric could be there in
We
the
actually have an
presentation?
example. We actually have, well, we actually haven't got not the specific one. We got an example from a client, and just
Yeah,
how that project. We haven't got the specific measurement, but I think that answering a high level question like this, you'd have to know what the pain is, because sometimes time not spent. Say it's an automation, right? So that's a staff member not spending time on that. So then the time in reduction has come down. So that's a good thing. But in other cases, it might be completely different. So it really depends. That's why it's somewhat more nuanced in B2B. That's why you have to really look at your value proposition and what you're actually
yeah.
doing for the client, right? And what the
Yes,
solution
good point.
provides.
Yeah, so in that particular project, the North Star had elements of automation in it. So we wouldn't measure the time not spent, but we would measure how many of the activities that would be automated.
Exactly.
Because again, time not spent, what if the volume of work grows, right? Then your team may end up spending the same amount of time as they did last year, but they're now dealing with 5 times the workload, for instance.
Yeah. And you could even work out the average time it would take and say this task takes this amount of time. It was automated, and then you would just extrapolate that out, and then you could convert that into a monetary amount and say, okay, well, it saved 16,000 hours of this at this unit cost, and then you would get the North Star metric well, the North Star metric would be the automation level, but then you could work out other metrics off the top of it. So it's really nuanced and depends what the solution is, but we could pick up on that. We could have a call about that for sure. Here's the example. So, and how it works in practice. So we designed the North Star metric for a new ESG solution. So this is carbon accounting. So this had an immediate impact on the actual onboarding flow because we identified the moment that it happened, and then it signposted the way of how do you onboard people and get them to value as quickly as possible. And then when we worked with Asker, the feedback was the result the helped us focus on bringing value to our customers in a clear and concise way. So that's what the North Star metric did. Again, every single North Star metric is going to be different depending on what the application does. But the ultimate result is that you should be able to focus on customer value in a very clear and concise way. Okay. Anything else to add there, Hans?
No, thanks.
Okay. So the next stage that we look at is the elevator pitch. So how do you, I think most people know what that constitutes. How do you pitch your product in under a minute to a stranger? So we start with, is it like the problem definition? So it's a 4-paragraph structure, and then you keep the 2 paragraphs from the problem definition exactly the same, because you need to paint the picture of the problem and then position the solution accordingly. One of the best canvases that we do for this to really just break down to core value is we offer for ours is best because. So this could be, you could do this for companies in your head right now. So like if you did this for Google, you could say we offer the world's search engine results in 10 blue links. For the world's internet users, ours is best because biggest data set, second largest search engine in video, etc., etc. It's just a really simple way of breaking very complex things down into just core value. And then forming the elevator pitch. Problem first canvas is something that we use a lot of in B2B. So that focuses on the problem, the market size, moves to the solution, ours is best because, and then the outcome quantified. So I've done an example of this here. So you've outlined the problem in the first 2 paragraphs, exactly the same as it was before in the problem definition. The market size is implicit because it's all employees. The solution, Focus ASAP, is introduced as a new employee app designed to make your team more productive. That's the solution. Ours is best because it syncs directly to your calendar. You can shut off notifications, allocate deep work, and get more meaningful work completed than ever before. And then you do the outcome because you're selling an outcome essentially. We empower your team to do deep focus work unaffected by a constant stream of notifications, noises, distractions, delivering a proven increase in productivity and a 37% leap in peaceful, productive work. In the book, I actually explain the North Star metric for this as well. So we'll send that to you. So you can see, because it's a more complex calculation, but you'll see the actual thinking of what went into it, every step, and then you'll see what the North Star metric is for this particular product. I left it out today because it gets a bit mathy, but you can read it in the book. So that's the first section. So that's about the real core positioning elements. You know where you're going, why you're doing it, the what, the how. You know how to measure customer success. You know exactly the problem you're looking at, and then you know how to articulate that to your audience. Quick, succinct. So anything about positioning you want to add there, Hans? So this is like I said, you can't just do this in one go. You have to go through the rest, but you'll come back to this. But this is really the foundation, right?
Yes, it's yeah. The target market here in personas are, it's a reflection of that, right? It's two sides of the same coin. I think one of the things we often talk about is resonance. I mean, how well does the positioning you have defined here, how well is that a fit for the market and the users? So I think we should just jump into that.
Yeah. So this is what the above is based on. So when we talk about B2B, this is not so much B2C because they're all the same person generally. But when we look at customer, so we're thinking about which companies are you targeting? Which companies does the products or service help? I'm sure a lot of people here will know, you're going to be looking at industry, revenue, industry codes, categories, nuances, certain regulations, etc., certain sizes, technologies that they use, certain pain points that are prevalent, right? So this is the customers, this is the companies. And then we delineate that into the buying committee. So these are the people within the company who are going to be buying it. So you need to look at what are their concerns, their buying habits, their pain points. Again, you're going to be looking at like job titles, specific needs, pains, ideals, outcomes, the transformation that they're going to be looking for. And I think there's a real key point here that you should go through, Hans, about when we come to users, right? And the difference between the buyer and the user, because they're not always the same, but they need to have their own profile.
Exactly. And this is where you meet where the commercial team, the sales and marketing teams that are promoting your applications out there, that are selling them in the market, and the software development, product development teams are generally targeting these two aspects. So the users, they're the day-to-day people that will be using your application. They are the ones who will be interacting with it. They may be within the organization of your customers. So let's say you have a B2B application for SaaS application for improving market communication. So you're targeting medium-sized companies within a specific industry. The buyers are the ones responsible for the communication teams. The users, maybe everyone within the company that can use this in terms of market communication. And the users may also be people outside of your customer's organization, the actual customers of your customers that will be receiving this communication or interacting with it.
Yeah.
And your product development team, generally what we've seen and what we see out there, the UX designers out there are very concerned with the users. They're very good at doing the user research and figuring this out. What are the needs? Who are the users? What are the pain points? Whereas the commercial team, sales and marketing teams, much more focused on the buyers. Well, who would be buying this? How do I sell this to the head of communication or to the CEO or to the market CMO or whatever the target, the buyers are here. But what's shared between them is that both the users and the buyers work within the company, and it's usually it's always the company goals that these things have to be tied back into, in terms of what's the impact that the application will bring. What we had here in the beginning, in terms of the problem statement as defined from the company point of view, especially when we work within B2B, rather than focusing too much. We've seen that happen in some UX teams and research teams out there, too big a focus on the users and their pain points. You have to really solve the problem of the customers. So that's why we differentiate between these three components: the customers, the companies, the buyers, people, and the users, also people.
Yeah. Essentially, the customers, the companies where they work, and then you have the buyers who may want an increase in productivity, or they may want to, like Nick said, solving a certain pain, and they want to know how that's going to be done. But then the users are going to be using that every day. So everyone needs to have their needs taken care of and identified, and a profile for each. And if they all are coherent, again, that word, it's much more effective when you do your sales and marketing activity and the product development as well.
And in some cases, that they are the same. The users and the buyers may also be the same people.
Yeah,
it's not always that they're different. But
you need to find that out. to determine that, right? So that's really important point. Validation and insight. So this is something that is applicable to everything here, but this is something particularly relevant to the user and the market and the customer. So a lot of times you'll have insights from leadership, employees, and their point of view. This is normal, but it creates a blind spot. So this is the perspective of the users and buyers. So this is important for late stage, this is important for corporates, this is important for startups as well. So testing assumptions against the real world in sustained buyer and user research is really important to every component of this strategy. What the whole point of the strategy is you come up with a hypothesis, and then you can constantly test before you start building. Like we said, it's maximizing the investment in marketing and in software developer hours also as well. So communicate hypotheses and look for blind spots when you're doing this, and everything should go through that validation and insight. You can do that with marketing, just without even building the product first. Test the assumptions, test the value propositions. You can do it with user research. You can do it with customer interviews. There's a lot of ways to do it, but this is a real key point about the entire strategy. And a real key point here about is like, I'll just finish this, Hans, and bring you in because I think this is important for you. So function versus aesthetics. So a product that works will be a shiny, attractive product that doesn't. So this is a big thing about products. Like, well, we need more features. We need it to look better. But often, if it solves the problem, the function will generally beat the aesthetics.
One point on the validation and insights, because we did that ourselves actually prior to the webinar here, and prior to launching our ebook on the topic here. We just launched it. Right? We didn't have the ebook. We just said we really believe there's a need for this ebook out there. Had the strategy, had the users, had the customers in mind for this, and we just launched the ads, saying, okay, do you want a sample of this ebook? And looked at the traction, and we iterated and then changed different value propositions, different ways of communicating the value of this, targeting different people. And so where do we have the traction? So it's not necessarily something you have to sit and recruit users and speak with them and sit them in, but look at what is actually the behavior and use marketing activities to validate these things before you have it.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't actually have to have the thing, but to sell it. So it's like a lot of people are, okay, well, we'll invest in an MVP, or we'll build a wireframe. Sometimes you don't even have to do that. So this is something that we do internally a lot, and we advise our clients to do also. Validation marketing is just the promise, and then you can just take it step by step from there. Really good point.
And if any of you that are here today did sign up for the ebook, it is on its way. You will get it.
I saw it today, so it is actually done. I saw it's mostly done. We'll be sending it out after this webinar with all of the really in-depth detail about every component of this strategy, step by step. It's big. We can't obviously cover everything today, but it's coming this week. And just I touched upon this earlier, but yeah, customer surveys, product data, validation marketing, automated forms, in-depth interviews, iteration and feedback is really key to getting a rock solid winning strategy, I feel, because it's like you can come up with a hypothesis, but then you have to test it against the real world. So section 3, differentiation and value. So by this point, if you've done the others, again, like I said, it's not step by step, but the positioning statement is one of those internal tools. That is a good proxy to say, okay, we're nearly getting there, because we use something called the Jeff Moore canvas. And what it basically does is just say 4. So this is for your defined target and customer. So you can just plug that in once you think that that's rock solid with the pain or need. So take that from the problem. Our service, or our name, Focus ASAP, we said earlier, whatever the name of the product is a employee productivity software. That statement of benefit ideally quantified with numeric proof. So once you actually have all of the elements of your strategy, you can actually plug them into this canvas. And if it's looking rock solid and it's looking validated, and you validated each component, this can be a really good internal tool to say, okay, this is the target customer, this is the pain we're solving, this is the product, this is the category, and this is the benefit. Ideally quantifies out to 37%, 10x, or whatever it would be, just to give that proof that you validated it. And then the outward facing version of that is the value proposition. So I think everyone, again, will probably know what a value proposition is, but in terms of actually forming an effective one, a really powerful tool that we use internally is called the value proposition canvas. So what this helps you do is draw a direct line from the service that you're offering. Again, we said like build and sell. They're the two fundamental components. So the value map is the service, the value that you offer, the problem you solve, and then that draws a direct line to the customer. What pains do they have? What jobs do they have? And what is the ideal outcome that they need? So in terms of customer gains, what are the jobs that your customers need to do? What are the tasks that they need to be, what they're trying to satisfy? What pains do they have? What ideal outcome are they actually looking for when the product is developed? That's the customer side. So how are you solving all of those problems? And then you're looking at the value map. So it's what's the product or service? What's the problem that you solve? How do you alleviate that? And then what are the value adds? So this is like, again, like the canvas we did earlier for the elevator pitch. It's like breaking everything down into its component parts so that you can draw a direct line between the value and the product as well. So anything to add there, Hans?
No, it's an extension for the targeting we had in the previous section. So deep dive one step deeper into this. So I think maybe go to the next section about the competitive landscape.
Yeah, so I think competitive landscape is one of those parts, like on a high level, I think that a lot of people will know, but then it's a really fundamental part to get the unique aspects of the product. So on a high level, when we look at a competitive landscape, you're going to be wanting to look at the overview, at the business model, the pricing strategy, where you win, where they win, positioning. These are all quite high level, so you want to be having a high level look at the market. After that's done, one of the things that we've implemented is something called competing factors. Now, this is something that it's a blue ocean technique, and essentially what it does is you're looking at all of the factors within a market which influence purchasing decisions. So this is essentially the ground upon which battle takes place. It's the aspects where you compete. It's always price is going to be one, but it could be whatever your domain is. It could be integrations. It could be vendor network. It could be level of international support. There are multiple aspects that you need to look at, dependent on your specific domain. And then what you do after that is you can score each factor out of 5 for your product about where you sit in the market. And then you can look for areas of differentiation where you can actually stand out more, whether that's higher or lower. And then you can test that alignment in your user buyer research for validation. Again, you score your product on these competing factors, you identify them, you look for the areas of differentiation, you form your strategy, and then you test it against the real world. And then you'll end up with something like this. So this is from an example of how this could look. So one could be price, one could be vendor network, integrations, etc. And you just look at where your solution sits in relation to everybody else. And what this does is bring it just brings a really simple visualization about where the market is.
So each line there is your competitors and one of them being you, and then each section is the competing factors and how you score yourself and how the competitors score, allowing you to identify areas where you can compete in the market.
Yeah, and differentiate as well. So this is where the USPs come in. I think a really good example of this is Nintendo Switch. So they have less power than their competitors. They don't have all of the big AAA games, but what they do have is on this part here, this big white space on the top right, is they have portability, and then they have their own like Mario or whatever it would be, their own intellectual property. So they're competing in a completely different aspect for a completely different market, and that's identifying those areas as a real key component, I believe, to actually forming a really effective strategy and effective differentiation. So this is a really important exercise that we've often found that this is really helpful.
One thing to mention here, as what I don't think we mentioned before, is all of this work on the product strategy. It's relevant, obviously, when you're launching and investing in new digital initiatives, but it's also highly relevant in the case where you have an existing application or an existing product that may have been 10, 20, 30 years in the market, and you want to reassess because things evolve. Right? These things are not standing still, and maybe the market changed. Maybe there's a new competitor in the market that outperforms you in certain aspects, and with a tool like this allowing you to reposition your application maybe for better fit. What we see sometimes, companies removing features and functionality from their applications to, in that case, score lower on some competing factors, but then allowing them to score higher on something like self-service, ease of use, that may be attractive to a different segment in the market.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. High doesn't always mean good, right? So it's like you've got level of features really complex, but then you can come up with something much simpler that would have a lower score. So it's about finding where you sit, and this is like a really great visual aid that's helped a lot of people that we've used this with. So and that's the groundwork for the USPs and the differentiation. So looking at where you differentiate, where do you diverge, where is your competitive advantage, and then what's the impact of that, so that you can front load it. Because a lot of like you're more on the product side, I've come more from the marketing side. If things aren't going well, then there is a temptation to come up with more outlandish differentiation where it's just a tweak of copy. And then in this case, it's actually been considered from the start, and there's a very clear strategy underpinning what your differentiation, what your unique features, and what your unique offering to the market is. So, yeah, looking at the target market profiles, looking at the competing factors, distilling everything that when you did that exploration and you made the graph, and then doing the validation testing after that. So it's the end result is it's simpler to identify high value differentiation, not just differentiation for its own sake, and then not overselling promises in the market, because then the result of that will be churn, essentially. So to ensure coherence, we also focus on a set of key questions for each differentiation. So who is the USP for? Specifically, is it for the user? Is it for the buyer? Is it for the CEO, the head of HR? Where does it sit? What pain does it solve? What value does it provide? Why is it better than the alternatives? And how can we describe it in a simple, engaging way? I think this is all to say, Hans, this entire structure is about digging down to the details and getting coherence, getting something that is very structured and unique, right?
Yes, and making it accessible for the teams, right? Making this in formats that's accessible and shareable and understandable by everyone across the board.
Yeah. So product, tech, like the marketing, everything is aligned. So it just gives you that real coherence.
Outbound sales, if you have people that sit and call potential customers to see if it's a fit, what will they say when someone picks up the phone? Who will they be calling? All of these things ties together. Who do you put in your targeting on your LinkedIn, Facebook ads? All of those things.
Yeah. So so one of the key so this strategy, this is why I think it's so fundamental, is because that you actually have everything that you need really within this structure. You have everything that should be there. You should have your key messaging, you should have your USPs, and it should help drive development, and it should help drive the go-to-market. So it's very easy to come to this document within an organization and create exactly what you just said, like the sales, I think they call it sales enablement material. So, call flows, writing the website, writing ads. You're doing a digital advertising program. Who do we target on LinkedIn? How do we plug that in? And then everything can be derived from this, because it sets the foundation, right? This is why we said the wrap up. So bringing it all together to be coherent. We said at the beginning that this is a constant iterative process. It should be constantly shaved, constantly refined and tested. But once that's there, once you've gone through that process and you can't really change a word, and you're getting traction, once it's coherent, validated, and your teams are getting more aligned, your product the end result should be meeting a real need for a specific customer, and have messaging that communicates value without having to make claims you can't back up. This is the strongest foundation you can have to iterate forward with feedback, using data as you go. So this is all about, like I said, setting the foundation, and then making sure that the product development team and the commercial team are feeding those insights back into the strategy, and then you just keep going from there. That iteration is really important. You touched upon this earlier, Hans. So when we look at strategy, I think there's three key buckets that really fits into. So brand new B2B SaaS startups, more mature companies who need to reimagine. Maybe they've been in business 15, 20 years, or even 10, and they're looking, okay, how do we plan the next 5 to 10 years? Where are we going? Are we still aligned? Is there new technologies we need to implement? And then there's the non-technology companies looking to benefit from digital transformation and ventures. So I think it's applicable to most people launching digital products. If you're in that middle phase, probably I would imagine that you have some level of strategic underpinning already. But once that's formed, it forms the basis for the next steps, which are user research, validation testing, and marketing, forming the product roadmap, and then forming strategic goals off the back of it. Yeah, anything to add there, Hans?
Yeah, I'll just add for when we talk about SaaS companies, they are digital in nature, right? The product strategy and the business strategy, that's the same thing, right? There's one product, there's one application, there's one market. Maybe sometimes you have different applications targeting different markets, but these things are very much connected. When we talk about non-technology companies, so this could be traditional service companies that are adding digital components. It could be manufacturing companies that sell, it could be Grundfos that are selling pumps in the entire world. They will have more different digital applications and services with each of their unique strategies. Maybe they're targeting some of the same customers and some of the same users, but with different focus and with different problems. And in those cases, you'll have unique product strategies to the unique solutions you have. We also have some customers, some teams we work with that have a whole suite of digital applications. If you imagine like how Microsoft have the Office suite, we have some customers that have something similar within their unique markets, and there you need to then look at, is this one strategy for the overall suite of products, or is it different strategies for the individual solutions that you're looking at?
Yeah. I think to sort of paint a picture of this, I'll hand over to you now, Hans, just talking about some of the examples that we've had, just to sort of bring this to life a little bit more.
Yes. So one of the projects, or one of the customers we work with within the recent years is Teshem. They are a German industry company. In Denmark, we work with the Scandinavian team, Denmark and Norway. Here in Denmark and Norway, they work within utility. Within the utility market, within measuring energy consumption and usage in apartment buildings. So Teshem has here in Denmark roughly 250,000 apartments within which they measure energy usage for heating the apartments, water consumption, electricity consumption, etc. And they've been in business, I think, more than 100 years in Denmark. They've been there were different company names, but they're now called Teshem, and they've been in business for more than 100 years. So a very traditional company that would go out, install meters, go out manually and read these meters once a year to figure out how much heating did Lawrence use, how much did Hans use, how much did neighbors use, and then figure out who should pay for what. And what we've been working with them on over the past couple of years is a series of digital ventures. One of them being a new tenant-focused app, so the people living within the apartments, as these meters are now going from being manual, read once a year. Some technician would go out and write down how much energy did Lawrence use, how much did Hans use. They are now becoming digital, read automatically once a day, allowing Teshem to offer new services within the market and compete on different markets. So here we help them define the strategy and build and launch one of this tenant app targeting people living in apartments, so they could keep track of the utility cost and the utility consumption, again to bring down CO2 footprint, bring down usage of the energy. Yes, I don't know, Lawrence, more to add on this case study.
I just think I think this is a good example of like a non-technology company that were launching a new digital product and had to form that strategy about like, okay, how do we actually address this challenge? Because there was no I think they had something there, but the actual infrastructure of building that was like, okay, how do we actually bring all of this data together? What's the strategy? And then to see that go through the strategic point, through the build, and then to actually having 100,000 plus users now who are actually paying for this
Exactly.
makes a nice sort of like extrapolation of how this can work, on these larger, more complex products that go to market. They need that strategic underpinning, and then they need to be iterated forward because some of these problems are very complex with lots of data, right?
Yes,
Having got that,
and one can easily end up in a not to say data-driven is bad, but one can easily end up in an idea-based data-driven. Oh, we have this data, so let's build this and see how does it stick, how does it work within the market. But reversing that and starting with the strategy first, and then working your way back, both for the product development, but also for the market communication, is a lot better approach.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's anyone that has any questions here at the end. You've shared here, Lawrence. If anyone has any topics, any questions, any specific for any sections of the presentation,
or any clarifications, because obviously there's 12 components. Some of them are more complex than the others. If there's any clarifications, obviously a lot of it will come out in the ebook, which we'll send to everybody, which has like the guide through. But if there's anything that needs to be covered now, we're happy to.
Maybe I can share a little bit. If you take a step back and look at it very, very high level. So the first section that we covered, that's the elevator pitch is a part of it, but it's the kind of big picture. What is it that this particular application, this particular product is supposed to do? The second section is who is it then doing it for? And the last section is, well, how do we then compete at the market for everyone else that are also trying to do something for this particular problem, for these particular customers, for these particular users? So covering those three parts really sets the foundation of a well-executed solution.
Okay. So with no questions coming through, I think that's probably, well, we've reached the end there. We'll be sending through the ebook this week. So if there's anything, and if there's any questions that you have in the meantime, then you can email us back. I hope that it was insightful for everyone today of exactly how we've seen a strategy created along these parameters with these components. Sorry, there's a question just lost my train of thought. Thank you.
Teresa is asking if there's a recording of the webinar. So this is actually our first webinar. There is a recording. I'm not sure if it's distributed automatically or if it's, but Teresa, we will get back to you on that. So there's a recording and that will be shared, right, Lawrence?
Yes, it will be shared. We'll be sending this through to everyone who signed up, and it will either automatically or I'll just do it manually as well. So we'll be sending that through so you can dig through, and then there's the book to go alongside it as well, because obviously this is a bit like there's a lot of information here, but the book details all of the details, and then you can watch this back. So yeah, we'll be sending that around this week as well. So well,
awesome.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone for joining. And reach out if you have any questions. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Bye.